This is AV Week, episode 666, recorded Friday, May 24th. I can't even do it with a straight face.
Sorry about that. Just be a second. That's a clean burning hell, I tell you what.
The era of SMPTE 2110, the future of digital signage technology, and Teams leverages Logitech AI. All that and more, next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 666, recorded Friday, May 24th, 2024. The magic of networked AV. This is AV Week, the weekly wrap-up of the biggest AV news and information we have gathered. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss that news and information, first and foremost, we know where she works. We also know where she lives, but we know where she works. We just can't tell you. AV Dawn Mead. How are you, ma'am?
Very good, thank you.
Also with us is our buddy and pal, Bradford Ben from Advitas. Welcome, sir.
Great. Thanks to be here. And you do know where I live because you've been to the house, but I've since moved, so now you have no idea.
No, I was just at your house a month ago.
No, I'm joking.
All right. He's in Orlando, if you're curious. We'll get to hang out with him in InfoComm next year. And to round out my own personal old home week, Jeremy Caldera from Pearl Technologies. Welcome, sir.
Hello, everyone.
I say old home week because these are all old friends, and I appreciate all of them.
Wait up, isn't it your birthday next week? So you shouldn't be calling us old. And Dawn never ages.
So it is technically my birthday next week by the time this comes out. But you are older than me, so you are my old friend.
I'll come back here. I'll hit you with my cane.
All right, exactly. First story, Eurovision. And here's the thing. I pick these stories sometimes just for my own amusement. I love the Eurovision competition. It is some of the most just whacked out, crazy singing competition. The outfits are fantastic. And if you've never seen the Will Ferrell movie about Eurovision, you need to go see it because it's a lot of fun. Anyhow, Eurovision 2024 became the first large-scale live broadcast event to implement a full SMPTE ST2110 workflow from the media servers all the way through to the LED screens. The event, which featured a stage with separate LED back walls, 5 movable LED cubes, they utilized disguise technologies to drive video playback across the stage. The production team had a whopping 55 seconds to reset the stage with unique lighting and screen content for each of the 37 acts. Ola Melzig, Eurovision's senior technical director, said that embracing new technologies and pushing boundaries has always been a key motivation for returning to the show year after year. Bradford, first question for you. SMPTE 2110, AV over IP, you can take it either direction, but generically, what is something like this? It's a live production, right? High stakes, high profile. What does this decision by Eurovision mean for the adoption of 2110 or just AV over IP in a live environment?
So I think AV over IP has been there for a while, but not at this high of a resolution and not this, like you said, high
was
profile.
That a video joke?
If you want, I can make a video joke, but it would go over your head since you're a lighting guy.
Very nice.
So I think it's a big thing that they're doing 2110. I think this was a great show from a technical standpoint to do it for a few reasons. One, I'm sure synchronization and latency was a huge issue with this. And because they had so many independent sources, instead of trying to feed one big source, it's kind of split up the load on the network. And I don't know, but my hunch would be on the disguised servers, they had multiple small servers instead of one big one. But it's still a great show of confidence as well. It shows that the networks are truly getting to be reliable and support the bandwidth that's needed. We can talk about where else this has been used, and it's not been used in many touring locations. Yeah. Dante's been used for a whole bunch. Network control to control a server backstage that's playing video has been used a whole bunch. But this is the first time all content's on the network. I think it's basically the next logical step. And I think it makes sense as well from a financial standpoint as anything else of, I just have to install a network. I don't need as much specialized labor for cable pulls. And in the 55 seconds, that's just recall preset. Come on.
Well, they have to move things around, though. It's like watching them set up for the Super Bowl to me, right? The Super Bowl halftime show. It's still impressive.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not impressive, but I think the scenic moving is more impressive to me than video and lighting changes.
All right. Dawn, same kind of question. What does this say for the state and maybe the future of AV over IP?
I think it's a really big movement forward because those of us in the industry, we have known AV over IP is a thing and that it works. But the average Joe, the average customer, some of them are still skeptical. They either think you can get good quality on a few small things, or you can go a large scale and you're going to have lag, or you're going to have issues, you're going to have problems. And so just the photos, just the still photos of some of the scenes and sets from Eurovision are ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. And, I haven't had an opportunity to watch some of the videos I plan to, but man, if they're even half as good as that, I mean, there's proof right there. As an end user that works with end users, I can go to my end users and say, hey, no, for real, look, this is a thing. It works. Look how amazing it is. We can do something similar. And it's a good selling point, if you're an integrator or an internal integrator. It definitely moves AV over IP forward for those not already drinking the Kool-Aid.
Caldera, you have put in a number of AV over IP solutions at Pearl, I know. So what does something like this do when you are walking into a space or a client or potential client, and you're trying to pitch this, and you get some pushback, and you still, and Bradford and Dawn are both right, there are still some customers that are still not familiar with it. What does something like this help when you're trying to communicate the stability or the technology available today?
Well, stepping back from the technical perspective and looking at it from a sales standpoint, right? Anything like this is going to allow us to just have that case study, just have that example of, here's high quality products, here's what's being used by the industry, here's the norm and the standard. And it just makes it a better selling point for us. A lot of times, like you said, people are hesitant to go the AV over IP route in some cases, but anymore, when I tell them everything goes across the network, there's no shock factor to that. There used to be a little wow factor to that back in the day. Like, what do you mean you can do that? It used to be everything. Now, no one is surprised by this fact. That actually, if I tell them it's not going across the network anymore, they would be surprised by that statement. So it's going to help that sales tool.
All right. Next story comes to us from our friends over at Rave. Logitech and Microsoft have partnered to integrate Microsoft's AI-based Copilot into Microsoft Teams environment and leveraging the Logitech technology. Copilot leverages Logi's video conferencing device capabilities to provide a range of features designed to, quote unquote, improve meeting efficiency and collaboration. Some of those things include meeting recaps, task identification, agenda creation, and question asking capabilities. Article goes on to list a number of other things, including helping people who come late to a meeting or they have to skip it because they're double and triple booked. But what the bottom line here is Microsoft and Copilot is leveraging some of Logitech's technology to enhance Copilot's already existing AI features. Dawn, when it comes to something like this, and Dawn has a very unique use case here, which is why I want to start with her. Dawn works for, let's say, somebody in the government in some way, shape, or form. How big of a deal or how big of a adoption rate are you seeing when it comes to, let's just say, government and people that are worried about secrets and stuff getting out? How big of an adoption are you seeing when it comes to AI, quite frankly, Copilot or anything else like that?
So just the commercial, Copilot type AIs, not a whole ton, because you never know where they came from, who has their fingers in it, who has access to it. And, suffice to say, my industry is very skeptical of outside sources. If they didn't build it, they don't want to use it. That said, there are a lot of great AI tools that we do use. Usually somehow government or our company or a competimate's development that we can use. The article talked about like meeting minutes and catching people up, things like that. Personally, I'll use at home for personal things. Fantastic effort. But the thing to remember with AI, even though it's the big sexy right now that everybody wants to use, is it's just like PCs at the beginning, garbage in, garbage out. And the proof of that was just in yesterday's news. Somebody had asked AI, how to keep the cheese from sliding off your pizza. And the AI responded, Google's AI responded, well, you can mix some glue into it and it'll hold the cheese onto the pizza. And, it found that in some Reddit post from some smart aleck, 11 years ago. But it treated that as a fact because it just is learning from what's out there. And Lord knows what's out there isn't always the brightest.
What? The internet has misinformation?
No, shocking.
No.
Yeah.
Caldera, where else do you see, I'll just say AI generically, right? The stories about Copilot, but AI impacting meeting rooms, classrooms, things like that nature when it comes to, again, note-taking, task management or task assignment, and then catching people up who aren't there or come in late.
I mean, that feature is definitely the cool part about it. I think where I'm more excited about AI is when we start talking about camera tracking and things of that nature, or even when we start talking about real live open captioning or translation.
Okay. Yep.
There's the smarts behind that and the processing power that's going to come up. And yeah, maybe it is AI, maybe it's not AI, I don't know. But the camera for sure. Just seeing where all this is going to go is, I don't even know. Right? I know I'm seeing it on the other side of our house, outside of AV. It started to play a major role when it comes to cybersecurity and that kind of thing. And, my team on that side of the house is very, very much involved in that. I wish I could predict it, but this is one of those things where I feel dumb. Like I almost need to ask my 10-year-old what he thinks, because that's probably what's going to be more realistic than what I'm going to come up with. So,
yeah, it is. And I think we're all kind of in that same boat where, it is a brand spanking new technology, cutting edge. Bradford, when it comes to just generically AI, what sort of concerns or hesitations should we have implementing this?
Oh, that's a very open-ended question. How much time do I have?
37 minutes.
Open podcast series right there.
Yeah. This is get me Shrago. Get me Shrago. We'll have a conversation.
Oh, really quickly, context. Shrago is an older friend. He's not older. He's actually younger than all of us. But he left the industry to become a lawyer because he was so concerned about security in the industry. So yeah, absolutely, that would be a wonderful conversation.
On a more serious note, I think AI, to Jeremy's point, is taking things that we already had and making them better, like camera tracking and some beam steering. But I also think people are using AI as a buzzword. Even when it's kind of like replace AI with the word magic. And that's kind of what happens. It's almost at that point of some of the things that we were doing 25 years ago with auto mixing and acoustic echo cancellation. And, it's not AI now, typically, but everyone assumes because it's magic. I think in terms of a lot of the other things, some companies are playing catch up, including Microsoft. I've been using another company's product to do exactly what it's talking about. Speaker identification, gives me notes, gives me follow-up actions, all that. The biggest problem I've had has been its understanding of vernacular. And this is where I think something like what Don's situation would be. We know that certain technology groups love their acronyms. And the one I'll use that won't get anyone in trouble is if I say IP during a meeting, is it Internet Protocol, ingress protection, or intellectual property? And how will the AI handle that? So I think the key to AI being successful is actually going to be segmented AI to keep it so that it learns your vocabulary, not everyone's vocabulary. Because I think that's going to help with rolling up the action items and the like. What I think is the next logical step and the part we should be concerned about of it taking over, And we can talk all about how people at OpenAI have been shoved off the board and all that stuff. Once again, a whole series. Is what's the next logical step? Is it's going to look at your calendar and assign you tasks because you don't have a lot of things on it, even if you're not the expert in it. Kind of like when you go to pick a meeting, it doesn't look if you have a meeting right before it or after it. So I think that's the next logical step. I do think it's kind of like any other new technology. You got to have rules about it. And I think we're moving a little fast with AI. And I think some companies are hyping as new features that they want to monetize what other key feature companies are doing for free. As a personal level, I think there's two big things that have to happen with AI. One, you have to clearly indicate when AI is being used. So for instance, when I write a blog post and I want to create an excerpt from it, I can hit the generate excerpt button and AI goes out and figures out what a one paragraph version of that post should be. Great use. I still read it, which is point number 2. Point number 2 is read and review it. There are certain things AI is great for. Instructions, definitions, things like that. But it's not the be all and end all. And it's kind of like, well, it is a young toddler and it does exactly what you tell it, but no more, no less. And if you don't ask it the right questions or tell it the right things to do, it may not give you the right answer, and it may be something disappointing. I also think for meetings, though, another thing it brings that people have to think about is how often have we spent hours preparing reports and lists of things, et cetera, and then someone asks you a question you don't have the answer to. I see AI, if it has that information, providing the number crunching as a huge tool for productivity, kind of like the summary things. And there are other things that you wouldn't think of, but I used it this week because I couldn't find the right piece of stock photography. Because every time I said people having a meeting, it was always a bunch of old white dudes. So I went in, one person of color, one woman, one white dude having a meeting. And that's the photo I used because I couldn't find the content I actually wanted. So I think for creating the meeting content, it's a huge step. I think what Microsoft and Logitech are doing, it's a 50-50 as to whether or not it's a step forward. I think they're missing some options. I would love to see it isolate the camera, as Jeremy was talking about with camera tracking. Because when you read a transcript, if you don't see the gesticulations, the pauses, the look of thought, you miss that. So if AI could include that or give you a video of the person that's that section, that helps immensely to give context. It's one of the reasons that video conferencing has moved ahead of phone calls, because now you get that context. Yeah. And I think those are the things that AI can polish, but I think it's a game of catch up in the corporate world.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point about how or why video conferencing has taken off and jumped ahead, because you get those visual cues that we're all used to in person. And it's everything from, somebody's tone of voice to, their personality and their mannerisms. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Last story here is about digital signage. We had an article on AVNation where we interviewed a number of folks and talking about quite frankly, kind of the state of digital signage. They highlighted a number of benefits of digital signage, including personalized shopping experience, enhanced brand awareness, and cost effectiveness over time. As technology continues to advance with the integration of AI and innovative applications like interactive displays, digital signage is set to become an increasingly integral part of both the retail, higher education, and corporate landscape, shaping the future of how customers and employees engage with brands and make purchases. Cavallero, we're going to start with you on this. Whether it's higher education, corporate, experiences, employee experiences. What is the role of digital signage today?
Well, first off, when was this article written? Because I feel like we had this conversation 10 years ago. Right?
Oh, everything comes back
Just
again.
a couple of weeks ago.
Well, digital signage, I mean, and I know, but in all reality, we've been talking about digital signage being the next thing for how long now?
That's fair.
Almost as long as we've been talking about AV over IP being the next thing, you know. The AV-IT convergence, we're going to get back on that soon, right?
That's
I mean, this whole thing with digital signage, it's fantastic. I mean, you're talking to a guy, is one of my side gigs, I own a digital signage advertising company, right? So I very closely follow all these things. And for me, it's going to completely, the AI portion of this is going to change things. And I think of that movie Minority Report, right? Yep. If you remember that, how do the retina scan and that kind of thing. I mean, how advanced we get for that, I don't know. But seeing more specific, targeted advertising, whether that's, you know, we're already seeing it on our cell phones within our social media applications and things like that. We're just going to start to see that more in a public space. And I think that's going to transform digital signage more in the years to come, because now we're going to have access to such large databases at such high speeds, you know. There's just so much data that's going to be out there and so much computer processing power that's growing exponentially by the day that can process that data, that we'll start to see that quick, real-time responses to almost anything. And you know, how, you know, take it from the last article, how it's going to step in further, right? Think about instantaneous generation of content for digital signage based on an AI platform. Okay, that's geared specifically towards the people who are coming in. I mean, the possibilities when it comes to digital signage and this kind of technology is pretty much endless, and I'm really excited to see where we come. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say it's the next big thing, because it's kind of the norm and expected for signage now. When I see paper signs anywhere, it drives me crazy. Yeah. I think that's the norm for most people. But I also don't want it to be something like your email, right, where it's passive, and then you start ignoring everything about it, because you're starting to see that on a digital signage forefront too. So I think by incorporating this new technology, it's going to bring it to the forefront again.
So do you think some of this, and the interactive part is the one that really got me. Do you think innovations like that will help stave off some of those stale old digital signage? It's just kind of there and passive.
I'll give you an example in the most basic standpoint, right? One of the local museums here in town has digital signage just about anywhere. A lot of their exhibits, digital signage based displays showing information on products you're walking past, but it's almost passive. When you go into it, you're going there to look at a genuine artifact. I'm almost blind to the digital signage at this point. However, now from the most basic level, we've got it on a motion sensor. You walk within 3 feet of it, it triggers a video to start playing, instantly grabs my attention, and now I'm learning about that piece where I would have just walked past it before. So even on that basic level, it's doing its job in creating that interactivity that you want to see and create that user experience. And so I think the technology that's coming is just going to make that exponentially that much better.
All right, Bradford, same question is what is the role of digital signage today in AV and in all these different areas?
So I agree a lot with what Jeremy said, but I think there's a couple things that are missing. One of the key things that digital signage can do for you is keep customers from pulling out their cell phone and looking up specs. So putting a nice touchscreen that says, which product are you interested in, and being able to press the buttons and compare a couple, which that's easy on the websites. If you could do that in the store without using your phone, that means you're not going to do as much comparison shopping. So look at Best Buy, buy at Amazon. So I think companies need to embrace that and make it active. I think the tailoredness is inches away. And I say that just knowing what's possible when we all carry these electronic devices that are IDs. Think about your cell phone, especially if you connect to the Wi-Fi in the room. They now can figure out, because usually they ask for your name and an email address. Yeah. And then they have your MAC address, and they can triangulate exactly where you are in the room and exactly which monitor you're on, and know everything through Google Ads, which happens amazingly quick. So I think, to Jeremy's point, lots of data, lots more tailoring. I think that's going to be the key to keep digital signage relevant. I also think there are some great opportunities of making it content or viewer aware. And this is where it gets into Pelican Brief and a little bit spooky, how comfortable are we? If the people looking at a particular item in the store are speaking Spanish or speaking French or speaking German, have the display show it in the proper language. Seems like a small thing, but that could make a huge difference. There's lots of ways to implement this, but I think the key thing is to have it interactive, as Jeremy said, but to keep people off their phones, because for retails, that's going to be the only way brick and mortar is going to have a fighting chance against the internet, in my opinion. It has to be a better experience and give you the proper information so that you don't go looking. It's like Best Buy has little QR codes that you can scan to get more information about the product. What did Best Buy just do? Told me to get out my phone and go to the internet.
Wait until Neuralink comes along.
Yeah.
All right, Dawn. You'll have the last word on this. Where does digital signage fit into all this?
The best part about working in this industry, and the most frustrating part about working in this industry, is that we have an opportunity to see and play with and understand things that are coming and use them well in advance of when they're here. So both Jeremy and Bradford mentions things that they're coming up with digital signage. It's happening soon. We're going to have this delivery. Most of 10 years ago, before I went to work for a company I can't name, I worked for a company that specialized in digital signage. And they built kiosks for one of the largest mall chains, I think, in America. And these kiosks, they had facial recognition in them. They could serve ads and promos based on who it saw. If it said, okay, that's a middle-aged woman, looks like she has disposable income, we're going to show her an ad for this jewelry store that's on the 3rd level. And if it's a young person, we're going to send them an ad for, Hot Topic or whatever, that happens to be in the mall. I mean, the heat mapping to track your eyes, where what you're looking at, the fact if you're smiling or not. All of these things existed 10 years ago, were being put into these kiosks in malls and sales places 10 years ago. And now they're really beginning to pick up the pace. People are more aware of them. But it's like, that's kind of old news. What are we going to do next?
I think next is AV over IP. I think that's going to be the next big thing.
I think it's going to be convergence, but...
But Dawn, it's affordable now. That's the thing. Like, those features were very expensive back then. Now they're more reliable and they're more affordable.
Well, ask Tim. He and I have been waiting for OLEDs to be affordable for a billion years. And, 20 years ago when we first heard about it, it didn't even hardly exist. But everything comes with time. Like I said, the most frustrating but also most exciting part of being in our industry. From the signage front, though, I think it's just going to keep going from here. We're going to have more exciting, more interactive things. It's going to be an experience to go shopping instead of just sitting there and looking at your phone. And to Bradford's point, sometimes using your phone in that context can be good. The mall that I was talking about, or the mall chain, would say, hey, I need to use the restroom. Where's the nearest restroom to here? You'd hit the button. It would show you a map on the sign, how to get to the restroom. And then it would say, click here to send those directions to your phone. So when you walk away and you say, was it 2 lefts and a right? I really have to go to the bathroom. Oh, okay. The thing says it's 2 rights and a left. So, that level of interactivity that brings it not just from the sign and the store, but also to your own environment, I think is really exciting. So I can't wait to see what we got coming.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. Dawn Mead, how do people connect with you?
You can not find me at work because I'm not allowed to tell you where that is. You can always find me on all the socials and online, either as AV Dawn or Dawn Mead. And this weekend, you can find me at my mom's house for the holiday weekend. So
very good. We were recording this on Friday before Memorial Day for those of us in the U.S. Bradford Ben, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you or advise us?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not on Twitter or Facebook because my opinion about those. I'm at advisist.com. I'm also going to be presenting at InfoComm, as I know many of the other guests are. So I'll be there making some presentations in the exchange area. So hopefully we can meet up with some people there.
Very cool. Mr. Caldera, thank you, sir, so much. How do people connect with you or Pearl Technologies?
PearlTechnology.com. You can find me, Jeremy Caldera, on LinkedIn or the Facebook or just about anything else. So.
All right. For me, for Tim Albright, don't follow me on anything because I'm not very exciting. We'll go by the website, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. We, of course, mentioned Infocom. Infocom happens the 12th through the 14th of June for all of our coverage, including the 10,000 previews that poor Mitchell has been putting together. You can go to avnation.tv/Infocom-24. We, of course, have our get-together called the Tweet Up. I was reminded today that I got to come up with a different name for that because it's no longer Twitter, it's X, but that's a different problem. That is the June 12th from 4 to 6 p.m. You can register for that as well on our website. So all that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching, as all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.